I'm Vinnie Politan. We begin tonight with some breaking news out of Arizona. Lori Daybell defending herself, representing herself in the murder of her fourth husband, Charles Vallow. In the midst of jury selection, they have struck a jury. 12 jurors, 4 alternates have been seated in that case, so it's all systems go. Again, she's representing herself in this case. Right now, we believe that the opening statements will be sometime Monday morning. The jury's coming back Monday morning, and we expect opening statements, and it will begin. So now Lori Daybell has a few extra days to prepare her first opening statement in her second murder trial. Of course, we'll have full details on all of this all day tomorrow here on Court TV. In the meantime, let's get to closing arguments. There has never been a trial quite like this one, and it's happening again. Today was no joke in Dedham, Massachusetts, with the start of the retrial of the century. Massachusetts versus Karen Reed. Outside the courthouse, Karen Reed supporters cheering on Karen and her high-profile defense team. They believe, based on the evidence, that Karen was framed by police for the murder of her Boston police officer boyfriend, John O'Keefe. Meanwhile, prosecutors say Karen is a killer who purposely ran John over in a jealous rage. And now both sides start picking a jury to find 12 people from Norfolk County who can be fair and impartial in a case where it seems everyone has an opinion. Tonight, all the latest. But first, on December 4th, 2024, at approximately 6:45 a.m., United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was fatally shot outside the New York Hilton Midtown Hotel in Manhattan. Thompson was in New York City for an annual investors meeting. As he approached the hotel's entrance, a masked assailant fired 3 shots from a suppressed 9mm pistol, striking Thompson in the back and right calf. The gunman then fled the scene on an e-bike, heading into Central Park, where he discarded a backpack containing Monopoly money and a jacket before exiting the park at 77th Street. This crime set off a massive investigation and manhunt that ended at a McDonald's in Pennsylvania. Luigi Mangione was arrested. He then quickly became a hero to some for the alleged murder. And now prosecutors are getting ready to move forward with their cases, and we have the latest tonight, including a shocking statement from his attorney. Great to have you with us here on Closing Arguments tonight, and we begin with the cold-blooded murder of Brian Thompson. No other way to describe it. Completely unaware that somebody was stalking him, somebody was lying in wait, and somebody was about to walk behind him and shoot him in cold blood on the streets of New York. That's what happened to Brian Thompson. Now, the allegations are against a man named Luigi Mangione. You know him. This case, this prosecution involves allegations that this Mangione went through substantial planning and premeditation in this so-called assassination of a CEO. Those allegations are important, extremely important. It is a part of the case, but it may be one of the most important parts of the case in trying to prove what Mangione did, but also trying to prove his mindset, what he was thinking, what motivated him in all of this. And it's also a factor that can be considered during his penalty phase if he is found guilty. Also, this shooting on the streets of New York was a risk to others, a real risk. You pull out a gun in the streets of New York and start firing it 3 times, and we've seen the video, there are other people there. This is not 2 people alone in a room. This is a victim getting shot on the streets of New York by a cold-blooded killer. There was a risk that other people certainly could have gotten hurt or killed that morning. So we know he's facing state charges, but he's also facing federal charges. And that is extremely important, especially with the prior two things I was talking about, substantial planning and risk to others. These are factors that a jury can consider. These are factors that a prosecutor, a federal prosecutor, can argue are aggravating factors. So if they convict Mangione, you can use those aggravating factors during the punishment phase, the penalty phase, perhaps during the death penalty phase. And if he's convicted, that's what's going to happen. Take a look. There's a statement from the Attorney General, Pam Bondi. Luigi Mangione's murder of Brian Thompson, an innocent man and father of two young children, was a premeditated, cold-blooded assassination that shocked America. After careful consideration, I have directed federal prosecutors to seek the death penalty in this case as we carry out President Trump's agenda to stop violent crime and make America safe again. Premeditated, substantial planning, all things that the jury can consider. And that's why prosecutors are going to need to prove that. They're going to need to prove everything that he did in the buildup to this assassination, and obviously they've got to link him to the person in the video. They believe they can do it with DNA. They believe they can do it with an alleged confession. They believe they can do it by laying out the timeline. It's all there. It's all there for prosecutors. So now this is a death penalty case. So there was a reaction to this announcement by his attorney, who's a great attorney, Karen Friedman Agnifilo. Here it is. And there's a part of this that is absolutely, to me, jaw-dropping and shocking. I can't believe that it was stated. By seeking to murder Luigi Mangione, and defense attorneys do this. They call the death penalty murder because they don't believe in the death penalty. They believe it's murder. That's fine. I've heard that many times before. The Justice Department has moved from the dysfunctional to the barbaric. I've heard that before. Their decision to execute Luigi is political and goes against the recommendation of local federal prosecutors, the law, and historical precedent. Well, there's only one boss in the Department of Justice, and she has spoken. While claiming to protect against murder, the federal government moves to commit the premeditated state-sponsored murder of Luigi. Well, again, I've heard this argument before. It's not murder. Yes, it's state-sponsored killing. And yeah, they're going to plan how to do it. They don't just willy-nilly do it. But yeah, but it's not murder. Let's be clear. Here's the line that shocks me. By doing this, they are defending the broken, immoral, and murderous healthcare industry that continues to terrorize the American people. What? One more time, I'm going to read it. By doing this, by seeking the death penalty, they are defending the broken, immoral, and murderous healthcare industry that continues to terrorize American people? Are they supposed to send Luigi home? Are you kidding me? I don't know, maybe this is a message to potential jurors out there? You know, jury nullification? Like, he deserved to be murdered? That's what the lawyers, like, I understand Luigi saying that, his supporters saying that, the public that hates the healthcare industry saying that, but these are his lawyers saying it. Shocking to me. Maybe I shouldn't be shocked. I don't know. We are prepared to fight these federal charges brought by a lawless Justice Department, as well as the New York state charges and the Pennsylvania charges and anything else they want to pile on Luigi. This is a corrupt web of government dysfunction and one-upsmanship. Luigi is caught in a high-stakes game of tug-of-war between state and federal prosecutors, except the trophy is a young man's life. Okay. I want to focus then on this whole blaming the Justice Department and the government in seeking the death penalty which is arguably warranted in a substantially planned, premeditated murder on the streets of New York, right? As somehow defending the healthcare industry. Let me bring in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. Cody, I was just shocked by this, but have his lawyers, and maybe they have said this before, I didn't think I heard this from them, have they talked about this? Like everyone else has talked about it, right?
Right.
But have they?
They have not, Vinny. You mentioned high-profile attorney Karen Agnifilo. She has not been outspoken on anything regarding a possible motive for Mangione, nothing related to the healthcare industry whatsoever before today, and now that she's clearly outspoken on this. But what she has been outspoken on, Vinny, in the past at a previous court hearing for Mangione in February, she mentioned that she feels Mangione's rights to a fair trial have been infringed upon due to actions by the chief of police in New York and the mayor of New York, Eric Adams. Take a listen to what she had to say.
What I did not understand was how shocking it was that this week on HBO, in a documentary, I see the chief of detectives and the New York City mayor, full hair and makeup done, sitting down and giving an interview for television and talking about the evidence in Luigi's case, talking about police paperwork that we don't have, talking about forensics that we have not yet received. I guess we have now today, but I didn't when I was sitting there learning about the case, hearing an actor play Luigi reading from a journal that they say is Luigi's, and we have yet to receive it from the prosecution.
So, Vinny, you heard her right there, very passionate about how she feels about this case, now outspoken on that, and now today outspoken on how she feels about the healthcare industry, evidently.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a high-profile case. You'll find your jurors.
Right.
We do in every case. O.J. Simpson got his jury. That woman down in Orlando got her jury. So if you present the case, you raise reasonable doubt, you'll be fine. I never believed those arguments about tainted juries. All right, let's talk about the alleged motive in here. Now, we all have come to that conclusion, right?
Right.
And the followers of the supporters of Mangione have. But how do we know? Like, how do we know that that is why Mangione did this, or allegedly did this?
Right, allegedly. So we know he was caught.
All those lawyers kind of saying he did it by saying that this is about the insurance company.
Clearly. But we do know, when he was caught in that McDonald's in Pennsylvania, he had a collection of things that police said he had on him, the gun and all that in the backpack. But what he also, according to police, had was a manifesto. And within that manifesto is where he kind of outlined, alluded to a reasoning as to why he did this. And from that manifesto, he says, quote, "Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder, the U.S. has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly number 42 in life expectancy. United is the, indecipherable, largest company in the U.S. by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, and Walmart. It has grown and grown, but has our life expectancy? No. The reality is these, indecipherable, have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it." And also, Vinny, in December, he was being taken to an extradition hearing, and he had a brief statement as they were bringing him into that building. Take a listen to this.
What are you going to do? And it's completely out of touch. And it's an insult to the intelligence of the American people. It's a lived experience.
So clearly he feels strongly about everything, too, saying that it was infringing on the American people, Vinny. Strong feelings surrounding what he did.
Yeah. Now, this case, obviously, a big part of it is the public, the reaction of that very
huge part of it.
That very passionate. I don't know what the percent is. It's not as big as Karen Reed's support, but was there any reaction to this death penalty? They're seeking the death penalty in the federal case now.
Absolutely, Vinny. We know how much traction that Mangione's name brings, especially in the world of social media, especially regarding his supporters. And I scoured some social media today to see what people were saying. Vinny, one of these posts on X, the first one I found says, "Note for future Luigis, since you risk getting the death penalty for killing one CEO, there is no point in stopping at one, all caps. Hashtag Luigi Mangione." And another post I saw, Vinny, it says, "Luigi Mangione getting the death penalty." Then it shows a picture of Luigi, and on that picture it says, "In reality, they're not after me, they're after you. I'm just in the way." So those supporters still feeling very strongly, Vinny. And actually, remember we had a guest on the show that had a whole movement behind her support for Luigi.
Raising the money.
Raising the money for the defense fund. Take a listen to what she had to say.
We also know that the state is going to throw virtually unlimited resources at this case, as they do anytime they want to make an example out of somebody and scare people into submission. So we knew that they're really going to throw the book at him from the beginning. And this fund was started before any suspect was identified. And we wanted to make sure that the suspect had some resources to rival the resources that the state was going to be throwing at it.
So, Vinnie, you heard her say it right there, before a suspect was even identified.
Right. So, I mean, what that's telling me is it's not about him, it's about the victim and the so-called cause.
Right.
Wow. All right. Cody, thanks so much. Let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight, trial attorney, big case Michael Jafer is with us, trial attorney, fellow of the American College of Trial Lawyers, Ann Bremner, and criminal defense attorney, former federal prosecutor Michael Sterling. Great to see everyone. I want to put this statement back up and get your reactions to it. The statement from Mangione's attorney. While claiming to protect against murder, the federal government moves to commit the premeditated state-sponsored murder of Luigi. By doing this, they are defending the broken, immoral, and murderous healthcare industry that continues to terrorize the American people. What do you think, Mike?
I'm glad you asked me that question, Vinnie. Here's my answer. I've lost all respect for Luigi Mangione's attorney. I've lost all respect. The number of times I've said anything negative publicly about a colleague when I was on Court TV is twice in the last 3 years. This is the third time. I've lost all respect for her. I've said consistently that her client deserves to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. He deserves a defense. He deserves his day in court to be protected under the Constitution like any other citizen. But the people that are supporting him and that are outside of the courthouse chanting are not doing it because they think he's innocent. It's because they think he's guilty, right? That's what they're doing. But I just said these are just crazy people, right? I've always said that they are dumb with a capital D. But his attorney, a fellow colleague, to be putting it like this man lost his life. He had 2 young kids. Right? So you're gonna say something to inflame the potential jury pool with a stupid statement like that, just a dumb statement. I hope she hears me. I hope she knows I said it. That's a dumb statement, and that's very, 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 very irresponsible for an attorney. You should know better.
Ann Bremner.
Well, I was just thinking, I know Pam Bondi. I used to debate her on Fox News back during the Duke lacrosse case, and I think she's doing what she has to do. And this reaction, I agree with Michael, is just over the top. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, the fact is that she's basically, pandering to this public that's saying, what a hero, like, get the next one, I'm just standing in the way, all of that. I think it's really adverse to our oaths as lawyers. And I didn't like the way she talked about the perp walk and basically making that a big issue as well, or talking about people in hair and makeup. I mean, she's got a very serious case here with a client that's in very serious trouble.
Yeah. Michael Sterling, what are your thoughts here? It almost seems to me the way she said this, it's like it was a justified killing. Like, and in no way, I don't know in what world, you're not going to be able to argue that in court.
Yeah, Vinnie, I disagree with my colleagues, Ann and Mike. I think what she was doing was preserving his presumption of innocence while also saying that she believes that the reason that the government, the U.S. Attorney's offices, the Attorney Generals is seeking the death penalty is specifically because they want to protect the healthcare industry. So I don't think she said anything necessarily to compromise his presumption of innocence. He's still entitled to his 4th, 5th, 6th, 8th, 14th Amendment protections. But I don't think she necessarily said anything to compromise his presumption of innocence, his right to a fair and impartial jury, any of those things. But I think what she was saying was, look, the government is doing this because they want to protect the healthcare industry while also, compromising my client's right to a fair trial, right? So as he sits right now, he's presumed innocent, right? We understand that as lawyers, as trial lawyers, as defense attorneys, former prosecutors, we understand right now, as he sits in jail, he is presumed innocent. So we have to look at him as an innocent individual. unless and until the prosecution overcomes their burden to prove him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So we should be looking at Luigi Mangione, if we're being fair and impartial and we're following the Constitution, we should be looking at him as somebody who is innocent.
Mike, I know you want to jump in. Give like 10 seconds here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I disagree with my colleague. I think she was just being sinister. I think she was being irresponsible. I'm good with everything else in her statement up until she made the dumb remark about the insurance industry. Has nothing to do with it. A man was murdered with 2 kids. Had nothing to do with anything else.
All right. Think Tank staying with us. We've got a lot more to get to in this hour. Jury selection, day 1, it started today. The Karen Read retrial of the century. We've got coverage coming up, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, the case of former momfluencer Ruby Franke has led to a new law in Utah designed to protect the children of momfluencers and family vloggers. Will this law protect children? Tonight, we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates. Tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
Doomsday Cult mom is now lawyer Lori.
She's representing herself.
On charges of conspiring to murder her 4th husband.
She said, I can murder you now.
The Cult Mom Conspiracy Trial. Live coverage this week, only on Court TV.
Karen Read arriving in court today. Day 1 of the retrial of the century. We are in jury selection. What was really interesting is that she's arriving from a different side now. They've reconfigured things around the courthouse. Take a look. Looks like they've got permanent buffer zones. They're moving people around a little differently. Closed off, I think, some different streets. You've got folks with American flags. I don't see a lot of pink there. It's a little chilly. There's a little bit of pink, but not a ton. This is by the courthouse itself. Let's take a listen to one of Karen Read's supporters who showed up today.
The buffer zone that was in place last year should have stuck with trial 2 because there was no incidents or nothing that happened that would cause us to be pushed back even more. If anything, I feel like it's violating our amendment rights as an American to be able to speak freely of how we feel about a situation, but being told that we can't do so. And that's a problem. And if it continues, it's going to become a problem that is completely unconstitutional.
And it seems, I can't tell, I'll get up there so I'll be able to tell you firsthand, but it looks like they've pushed them away from where they used to be near the green, which was like 1 block over. Karen Read would arrive, her supporters would be right next to her, and then she would kind of walk through that canyon of support, making her way into the courtroom, courthouse. But now, it seems they've been pushed down a different street. They've reconfigured things a little bit, and obviously supporters not happy about it. Let's bring back in our think tank, Mike Schaefer, Ann Bremner, and Michael Sterling. All right, Ann, what do you think of changing things from last time? I mean, I don't recall there being any issues with the trial, with the way things were set up, but the judge has changed it and seems to have pushed the supporters a little bit further away from the courthouse.
Yeah, well, it's like the Menendez brothers. They had a lot of difference between 2 trials, remember? But I think, you know, when she's talking about her rights, I thought somebody said the pursuit of happiness was the right to have pets. You know, I mean, people, it's my right to do this. It's my right to protest. It's my right to think and say what I want to say about the trial. But as long as they're not put in a position where they can't protest or say what they want to say, it's okay. And the judge can control his courtroom, and the outside is he or she sees fit.
Michael Sterling, my understanding is that the jury is meeting somewhere else, and then they're brought to the courthouse together, like in a van, and brought to an area where no one is permitted to go. And I'm wondering why they would change things second time around if there were no issues first time around.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they are looking at issues necessarily, Vinnie, but I think probably what the judge is trying to do is protect the integrity of the process itself, right? To ensure that jurors aren't being improperly influenced by outside protesters, individuals who want to exercise their First Amendment right to show support for Karen or show support otherwise. But I think what the judge is probably doing is saying, hey, you know, we had a trial run where we had a mistrial. We had one case, we had a mistrial. And what I want to do is make sure in this second trial, understanding full well the publicity, the support she has, the Facebook, everything that's going on, that we're protecting the integrity of the process by keeping the jurors as impartial as possible, specifically keeping them away from those who might be expressing support one way or the other.
All right, let's do this. Let's take a listen to prosecutors and defense attorneys inside the courtroom introducing themselves to the prospective jurors.
Counsel identify themselves for the record, starting with the Commonwealth.
Good morning, Your Honor. Laura McLaughlin for the Commonwealth.
Good morning, Ms. McLaughlin.
I'm Lally for the Commonwealth. Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, Mr. Lally.
Good morning, Your Honor. Hank Brennan for the Commonwealth.
Good morning, Mr. Brennan.
Good morning, Your Honor. Alan Jackson on behalf of Karen Reed.
Good morning, Mr. Jackson.
Good morning, Your Honor. Elizabeth Little, also on behalf of Ms. Reed.
Good morning, Ms. Little.
Morning, Your Honor. Robert Alessi on behalf of Ms. Reed.
Morning, Mr. Alessi.
Good morning, Your Honor. David Yannetti for Karen Reed.
Good morning, Mr. Yannetti.
Good morning, Your Honor. Victoria George on behalf of Ms. Reed.
Good morning, Ms. George. Good morning, Ms. Reed.
All right. Mike, that last attorney introducing herself, Victoria George, she was on the jury in the first case. She was an alternate juror. She didn't deliberate, but she sat in the jury box for the last trial. She's now a proud member of that defense team. What are your thoughts?
You know, that bothers me a little bit, but there's nothing wrong with it. I hate Karen Reed. I detest Karen Reed. I fully expect her to get convicted in this
trial. There's a lot of negativity coming out of you tonight, Mike.
You know what? Here's the thing. In my career, I've defended my fair share of narcissists. But man, I've never seen a more arch narcissist defendant than Karen Reed, and I know why they physically moved the jury, because a crying member of John O'Keefe's family and his best friend cried after the first trial, and they said that they heard that the jurors who were deliberating heard free Karen Reed chants in their ears the whole entire 27 hours while they were deliberating, right? This woman has spun up an entire community. I despise this woman, this alternate juror. I really want to see what they thought, what they heard in the entire deliberation, right? Some of them even say, we were unanimous. Give me a break. You were deliberating. This Judge Beverly could only set you back twice. And both times you came back and said, we're hopelessly deadlocked. But the whole time you were unanimous on murder too. Give me a break. I think this whole thing is a farce. And I really hope Karen Reed gets convicted. And this juror who's now on her defense team, I hope I have a debate with this woman one day at some sort of a conference, because I have some very specific opinions about that conduct.
Michael, what do you think about the former juror now joining the defense team?
Vinnie, the very first, when I first heard about this, the first thing I wondered was there any ethical considerations, right? Because lawyers are required not only to show due diligence and not having actual conflicts of interest, but even the appearance of a conflict. And so to me, if it were me, I would say, let me go out of my way to make sure that I'm not doing something unethical, right? So if you sat on a juror, you talked to other jurors, you heard all the evidence, you've been through the trial, I don't know, it might be right there on the line, but for me, as a lawyer who would want to avoid even the appearance of impropriety, I would say, let me step back as far away from this line as possible, because I don't want any problems.
All right, folks, we got more to get to. Who is the ideal juror for either side in this case? We'll bring in our consultant to answer that question.
We know that on the subject of this case, there are people advocating for one outcome or another with intensity, but without the benefit of having heard or seen any evidence at all. The law works in a different way, and the difference is crucial to our system of justice. The jurors selected for this trial will hear and judge the evidence. They will decide what the facts are, and where the evidence is contested, they will determine where the truth lies. Ultimately, the jury will decide whether the Commonwealth has carried its burden of proving that the defendant is guilty of any crime beyond a reasonable doubt. People outside of this building have rights, and we know that they have voices, but this criminal trial will be decided by an independent jury, free from outside interference, based only upon the evidence presented in this courtroom and the law. This is the only way to ensure that every person who comes before the court receives a fair trial. It is just that simple and that important. So, while public comment will likely continue, the rule of law will be upheld.
The jury's going to make the decision here. That's why deciding who the jury is so important. I mean, really important. You cannot stress how important it is. And in this case, in Massachusetts, in Norfolk County, I mean, most people have an opinion about this case. Like, I think they've all heard of it just about, but they've heard of it, and some people kind of have a gut opinion about the whole thing. So who are the ideal jurors for both sides? Joining us, jury consultant, human behavior expert, and author, Susan Constantine. All right, Susan, let's start with Karen Reed. What is the ideal juror for Karen Reed?
Well, Karen Reed is going to want younger jurors. In fact, when we saw the protesters outside, who did we see? A younger person, right? These people are more skeptical. They're also more skeptical of authority. They're online searchers. So they're more educated professionals, but they also should really think more critically. But they're a little bit, squeamish when it comes to police conduct. So they may kind of fall into that conspiracy theory kind of juror. They are very progressive. So just think about, they're very educated thinkers. Also, they're people that are very involved in social media, which actually could be a problem because, that's one of the questions on the questionnaire is that what do they watch? TikTokers and what social media, Facebook, et cetera, that they're watching because they're very moved by that, right? They kind of follow these kind of movements. And that's what I'm seeing here with this Karen Reed protesters outside. Also, they may have some sort of negative experiences with some sort of law enforcement or know of someone that they care about, and they formed opinion. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out more about their values, their beliefs, and their opinions, and also if they've actually started to develop biases that could really be detrimental to her case. So that's what we're looking for, and we're looking for more the opposite when we're talking about the prosecution. In the prosecution, I'm going to be looking for those older jurors. Those types of people are really more concerned about law and order. So they kind of stick by the rules. They're more law and order kind of background. I wouldn't necessarily be looking for anybody, of course, in law enforcement or anything like that, because I'd be kicked off in a heartbeat. But they're more conservative, have more conservative values. They're not on the social media that much. They have low media, exposure. They don't spend a lot of time in social media. And they may have been a victim of a crime or something in the past. And then, of course, there's much other questions, too, which we had to do with alcohol, et cetera, which overall, what we're trying to figure out from both state and defense is, do they have specific biases that were either would be detrimental to the defense, and we're looking for the opposite for the state jurors. So that's what we're looking for overall. The questions are just basics, but then they've got to ask those questions in 2 or 3 layers. They've got to dig deeper to be able to really understand their real opinions and values, because I'm concerned about that stealth juror that's going to show up, right? So there's going to be a lot of those that are hoping to get on that case that could override the case, that they could cause a lot of havoc within the deliberations. So overall, that's what I'm looking for. Once you're in the courtroom, again, a lot of things change because I'm watching their body language, their voice inflection. I'm listening to how they're answering the questions. There's a lot that goes on in jury selection.
We have a few samples from the jury questionnaire I wanted to point out. The first one is really about law enforcement. We see this in almost all trials. If testimony were in conflict, would you believe a police officer more than someone else? Would you disbelieve a police officer simply because the witness is a police officer? So that gets right to what you were saying before about that bias. Then we've got, have you ever been involved in a group, community, or individual activity showing support for law enforcement in or outside your own community? Have you ever been involved in the opposite, right? Group, community, or individual that was critical of the police or law enforcement in or outside your community? Now, we get down to this next section. Have you or someone close to you ever had education, training, or work experience in any of the following fields? Law enforcement, military, alcohol, drug abuse, and domestic violence. It seems that all those issues sort of flow through this case. So that information would be important. Do you have any strong personal beliefs, or you've been exposed to any strong personal beliefs from friends and relatives about operating a motor vehicle under the influence of alcohol? What's interesting here is that everyone was drinking and driving that night, like everyone. The people in the house. John O'Keefe did not drive, but he had Karen drive, and she had her vodka soda in the console, which he ended up taking. What are your thoughts there? How big is the driving under the influence issue versus how they feel about law enforcement? Which more do you think is this case about?
Boy, that's a tough one, Vinnie, because I can't really choose one over the other because I think they're really both super important. And I also think that they tie together. So when you think about it, they're at the party, they're all partying it up, they're all drinking, both police officers and, of course, Karen Reed. But on the other hand, they can do what they want to do on their own free time. The bottom line is, do you agree with, and is it okay to be drinking and driving? Who would probably be okay with it? Probably younger people a little bit more, although they're probably ordering Ubers. I don't know. But I mean, these are what's really important because we're talking about law enforcement officers and they should be above reproach, right? Because they are there to serve and protect. They're supposed to be law-abiding citizens. They're supposed to not drink and drive. So I think that this is going to be a really tough one.
And you also have the lead investigator who got fired for his conduct. So that's going to be a part of this as well. Susan Constantine, thank you so much. Great to see you. Let's bring back in our think tank Mike Jaffer, Ann Bremner, Michael Sterling. We have a small amount of time here. But what are your thoughts? And I'll start with you, Ann. Looking at trying to select this jury, overall, like the general population, like if I had to guess, like 70-30, maybe 60-40, Karen Reed is the way it's. Do you think the prospective jury pool is the same? Do you think it's like the overall population in Norfolk County, 60-40, 70-30 maybe?
I don't. I think there's more of a silent majority out there that looks at this case in a very straightforward way, and I don't think it's good for her. And when I'm picking a jury defending, I want bowlers. I just want people that bowl in the league, that are solid citizens, that get up there and do their duty and go home. And if she gets some of those, she's got some issues.
All right.
She gets a lot of them.
Michael Sterling, your thoughts about this jury selection process, and do you think there should be a concern from which side about a stealth juror, someone who has an agenda?
I think both sides should be concerned about that because in any case where there's a lot of publicity, you always have to be concerned about it. Now, if I'm the defense, I'm looking for anybody who's ever watched the Netflix special Trial 4 or How to Fix a Drug Scandal, right? If I'm the defense, because those two point out a lot of corruption and conspiracy within the Boston Police Department and Massachusetts Police Department. So if you've watched any of those two Netflix specials, I want you on my jury.
All right. Mike Jaffer, your thoughts.
One time we had a jury consultant consult us and told us to pick a jury, just ask one question. How do you get the flu? You'll get one of two answers. A, people will tell you I get the flu because I shake people's hands and they give you the flu. The other person will tell you I'm not eating right, I'm not dieting, I'm not sleeping well, I'm not taking my vitamins, it's totally my fault, I should take care of my shape better. The second person takes responsibility, the first person doesn't. So if you're Hank Brennan, you want to make sure you get the second type of juror. You don't want flat earthers. You don't want people on there who are complete morons, because those are the people who will buy in to the Karen Reed defense theory. That's what I would be worried about.
Big Case Mike going hard tonight. Wow. Okay. Great job, everyone. Great to have you aboard as we begin the retrial of the century. Mike Schaefer, Ann Bremner, Michael Sterling. We'll see you again really, really soon. When we come back, I will reveal something else you need to know tonight. Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, Ruby Frankie's former counselor and podcasting partner, Jody Hildebrandt, pleaded guilty to abusing Ruby's children. Now she wants to take back her plea. What exactly did Hildebrandt do? Tonight, we investigate.
Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, coming up next, only on Court TV. Before next week's season premiere of Interview with a Killer, relive the most shocking moments.
Tell me what happened that night.
Interview with a Killer Marathon, Sunday at 7, only on Court TV.
Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. More updates in the car accident involving Virginia Giuffre, one of Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew's victims of trafficking. Yesterday, she posted on Instagram that she had 4 days to live after being struck by a bus down in Australia. And now, after what she posted, what appeared to be a picture of herself in a hospital bed, the Western Australian police spoke out about a, quote, minor crash between a school bus and a car that occurred on March 24th. In that press conference obtained by ITV News, Acting Police Commissioner Kylie Whitley says she was not aware of any injuries as a result of that accident.
I do know there was an accident on the 24th of March. It was a bus with another vehicle.
And was there any passengers on the bus at the time? Are you aware?
I'm not aware of passengers on the bus, but certainly the bus driver reported it as he was required to do and in the right time frames. And I'm advised there was about $2,000 damage in the vehicle, not aware of any injuries.
And according to ITV News, police confirmed the car was being driven by a 71-year-old and the passenger was a 41-year-old woman. Virginia Giuffre's family says she is in serious medical condition and is currently receiving medical care. They elaborated on details of the bus accident in this statement to the Mirror. On March 24th, in rural Western Australia, a school bus hit the car in which she was riding. The police were called but said there was no one available to come to the scene. They asked if anyone was injured and suggested that if they were, they should make their way to the hospital. The school bus driver had a bus full of distraught children and left the scene to get them back, saying he would file a police report, which he later did. Virginia was banged up and bruised and returned home. Virginia's condition worsened and she was admitted to the hospital. Concerning her Instagram post, Virginia thought she had posted on her private Facebook page. Virginia and her family thank everyone for their concern. So the lingering question is, does she just have days to live? We'll stay on top of the latest details in that story. Right now, folks, we need you to take a look at your television screens because we have a missing child. This is Hope Newton Miller. Hope has been missing since March 26th of this year from a town called Gurnee, Illinois. She's just 17 years old. Here's what you need to do. If you see Hope, pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference. You can call 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Gurnee Police Department in Illinois. That number's on the screen for you, by the way. Let's see if we can get Hope to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.